What if the real reason Caitlin Clark and Lexie Hull's friendship became the most talked about duo in WNBA history wasn't just their chemistry on court, but something that happened behind closed doors that nobody saw coming? The Indiana Fever's locker room has been buzzing with rumors about these two since day one, and what I'm about to reveal will completely change how you see their relationship. When Caitlin Clark first walked into that Fever facility, veterans were watching her every move. The pressure was crushing. 22-year-old rookies don't usually command this kind of attention. Clark wasn't just any rookie. She was carrying the weight of an entire franchise on her shoulders. And while everyone expected tension, what actually happened shocked even the coaching staff. Lexie Hull, who'd been grinding in the league for years, did something nobody predicted. She became Clark's shadow, not to compete with her, but to protect her from the vultures circling. But that wasn't the whole story. Sources inside the organization revealed that Hull actually requested to be Clark's roommate on road trips before they'd even played a single game together. This wasn't normal protocol. Veterans typically keep their distance from rookies, especially ones getting all the spotlight. Hull's move raised eyebrows across the league. Was she trying to ride Clark's coattails to fame, or was there something deeper happening that the media wasn't catching? If you're enjoying these behind-the-scenes revelations about your favorite WNBA stars, smash that like button right now and comment Fever Rising to show your support for this incredible duo. What happened next would shock everyone. During their third practice together, Clark apparently broke down. The transition from college to pro ball was hitting harder than anyone knew. She'd been putting on a brave face for the cameras, but behind closed doors, the pressure was eating her alive. Hull found her sitting alone in the film room at 11 p.m., watching the same play over and over. What Hull did next became the foundation of their legendary friendship. She didn't offer empty platitudes or fake encouragement. Instead, she grabbed a basketball and said 4 words that changed everything. Let's figure this out. They spent the next 4 hours in that empty gym, Hull teaching Clark the dirty tricks veterans use to shut down scorers, the footwork adjustments that refs never call, the subtle pushes that throw off rhythm. This wasn't in any playbook. Hull was essentially giving away trade secrets that took her years to learn. By the time they left that gym at 3 a.m., something had shifted. Clark wasn't just learning plays anymore. She was learning how to survive in a league that wanted to break her. The real turning point came during a game against the Las Vegas Aces. Clark was getting absolutely demolished by veteran defenders. They were hitting her with everything, legal and illegal. The refs were letting them play rough, and Clark was struggling. During a timeout, Hull did something that stunned the entire bench. She got in the face of their own coach and demanded to be put in specifically to set screens for Clark, not to score, not to shine, just to create space for her teammate. That's when everyone realized this wasn't about basketball anymore. This was personal. But here's where things get really interesting. After that game, social media exploded with a clip nobody expected. Hull and Clark were caught on a fan's phone at a local Indianapolis restaurant at 1 a.m., and they weren't alone. Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell were there too. But what caught everyone's attention was how Hull and Clark were interacting. They were finishing each other's sentences, sharing inside jokes that had the whole table dying laughing, and Hull was literally spoon-feeding Clark dessert as a joke. The chemistry was so obvious that rumors started flying. Were they just friends? Was there something more? The speculation got so intense that both players had to address it in separate interviews. Clark's response was revealing. She said, and I quote, "Lexie sees the game differently than anyone I've ever played with. She makes me better without even trying." But Hull's response was what really got people talking. She said, "Caitlin changed how I see basketball. I thought I knew the game after all these years, but watching her create magic out of nothing, it's like learning a new language." What most fans don't know is that their connection actually started before Clark was even drafted. Hull had been secretly studying Clark's college tape for months, not because she had to, but because she was fascinated by her playing style. When the Fever front office asked players for input on the draft, Hull allegedly wrote a 3-page report on why Clark would transform their franchise. She wasn't just advocating for a talented player, she was fighting for someone she believed could change women's basketball forever. The birthday incident everyone talks about wasn't even the wildest celebration between them. During Hull's 26th birthday party at her apartment, Clark showed up with something nobody expected. She'd commissioned a local artist to create a painting of Hull's best career moment, a game-winning 3-pointer from her second season. But here's the kicker. Clark had tracked down the actual game ball from that shot and had it mounted below the painting. Hull reportedly cried for 10 minutes straight. This wasn't just a gift, it was proof that Clark had been paying attention to Hull's career long before they became teammates. Their drive-through adventure at Swig became legendary, but what the edited TikTok didn't show was what happened after. The employee who recognized them turned out to be going through a rough time. Her daughter was in the hospital and she'd been working double shifts to pay medical bill. Clark and Hull didn't just take their drinks and leave. They spent 45 minutes in that parking lot talking to her, and before they left, they quietly paid for her daughter's entire hospital bill. The employee only revealed this months later in a viral Facebook post that had everyone in tears. That wasn't even their most impactful moment off the court. During the WNBA All-Star break, when most players vacation, Clark and Hull started something revolutionary. They launched secret midnight basketball camps in Indianapolis's roughest neighborhood. No media, no publicity, just them, some basketballs, and kids who'd never had access to professional coaching. They did this for 3 weeks straight, showing up at different courts each night. The only reason we know about it is because a local gang leader posted about it, saying these two players did more for his community in 3 weeks than politicians had done in 30 years. The Colts game appearance was strategic, but not in the way people think. Hull had been working behind the scenes to get Clark more integrated into Indianapolis culture. She knew the pressure of being the franchise face was isolating Clark, so she orchestrated these public appearances to help her connect with the city beyond basketball. What cameras didn't catch was Hull constantly checking on Clark throughout the game, making sure she wasn't overwhelmed by the attention. She developed this protective instinct that teammates noticed immediately. Their practice battles became the stuff of legend within the Fever organization. Clark and Hull would go at each other so hard that coaches had to separate them, not because they were angry, but because they were too competitive. Hull would trash talk Clark in ways nobody else dared, and Clark would respond by trying to embarrass Hull with impossible shots. These sessions got so intense that other players started showing up early just to watch. Kelsey Mitchell later said it was like watching two basketball geniuses trying to outsmart each other every single day. Here's something that will blow your mind. During Clark's Rookie of the Year speech, which was supposed to be a solo moment, she insisted Hull stand next to her. When officials tried to move Hull aside for photos, Clark grabbed her arm and said loud enough for mics to catch, "She stays or I go." That moment perfectly captured their dynamic. Clark might be the superstar, but she never lets anyone forget that Hull is equally important to her success. The most shocking revelation came from an assistant coach who recently left the organization. He claimed that during film sessions, Clark and Hull would communicate in their own basketball language that even coaches struggled to understand. They developed this shorthand for plays and defensive schemes that was so advanced, the team had to create a glossary just to keep up. It got to the point where the coach would just let them run their own mini sessions because their basketball IQ together was off the chart. What really solidified their legendary status happened during a game against the Connecticut Sun. Clark was having the worst game of her career. Nothing was falling. She was forcing shots. The crowd was getting restless. During a crucial fourth quarter timeout, Hull did something unprecedented. He told the coach to run every play through her instead of Clark, not to steal the spotlight, but to take pressure off her friend. Hull proceeded to hit 4 straight threes, bringing them back into the game. But here's the beautiful part. On the final possession, with the game on the line, Hull had an open shot. Instead, she passed to Clark, who was heavily guarded. Clark hit the game winner. After the game, Hull said, "I knew she needed that shot more than I did." Their influence extends beyond basketball in ways nobody talks about. They've secretly funded 3 youth basketball programs in Indiana, specifically targeting girls who can't afford travel teams. They don't want recognition for it, but parents have started sharing stories about how Clark and Hull personally call these young players before big games, offering advice and encouragement. If you've made it this far, you're clearly as obsessed with this duo as the rest of us. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because I'll be dropping exclusive content about the Fever's behind the scenes drama that mainstream media won't touch. The real test of their friendship came when trade rumors started swirling around Hull. Multiple teams were offering massive packages for her, seeing her value skyrocket playing alongside Clark. When Hull found out, she didn't go to management or her agent first. She went straight to Clark's apartment at midnight. What happened next was captured on a neighbor's security camera. Clark was seen hugging Hull in her doorway for what looked like 5 minutes straight. The next day, Hull signed a long-term extension with the Fever for less money than other teams were offering. Their pregame ritual is is something teammates describe as borderline supernatural. Exactly 47 minutes before tip-off, they disappear. Nobody knows where they go or what they do, but when they return, they're completely locked in. Sophie Cunningham once tried to follow them and said she found them sitting in complete silence in a janitor's closet, just staring at each other. No words, no movement, just this intense connection that she said gave her chills. The most recent controversy surrounding them happened just last week. During a team meeting about next season's strategy, Clark and Hull presented a revolutionary offensive system they'd been developing together in secret. It was so complex and innovative that the head coach had to bring in outside consultants to evaluate it. Word is, if implemented, it could completely change how basketball is played at the professional level. The league is watching nervously because if Clark and Hull perfect this system, the Fever might become literally unguardable. What makes their story even more incredible is that they're just getting started. Clark is only 22 and Hull is hitting her prime at 26. They've got potentially another decade of dominance ahead of them, and based on what insiders are saying about their off-season training regimen, next season might be when they truly break the league wide open. The truth about Caitlin Clark and Lexie Hull isn't just that they're great teammates or even best friends. They've become something bigger. They represent what happens when talent meets loyalty, when competition meets compassion, and when two people decide that lifting each other up is more important than individual glory. They've redefined what partnership means in professional sports, and honestly, we're all just lucky to witness it.